If not, we'll move to the business actions. Ms. Antique's here. If you have any questions for Chair Mr. Craig.
Mr. Craig, we talked earlier today about going through some of the business actions. I know you had a program this morning that STPC that you went through.
And I was wanting to do it on the overhead, but it's not real situated here. It's in the complete back. And so we want to, I'll just pass it down. We can go over this, same thing we talked about this morning. I wanted to try to give you a one-pager in terms of where we've progressed since September 30, 2000, really from about 4 different perspectives here, and I'll explain that as we go through. The last 3 columns are basically the middle 2, the fund financial statements, are what you'll see in our audit report. That's all funds and what they accumulate to in terms of fund balance. And you can see in that second column how those roll forward over the history. I put a subtotal there at 9/30/02 because that is the time that the Government Accounting Standards Board put in the requirement to have like a dual reporting system. One basis being like a corporation would show their earnings. It's more like a business presentation. It's a full accrual presentation that takes into consideration, for example, in a business presentation, if you build a school for say $20 million, it recognizes that as an investment that's going to be useful over time, and it will amortize the cost over time. So it's just like you would see in a business reporting model. The GASB board felt like that was useful information to users of financial statements. So you have 2 reporting mechanisms at that point. The fund financial statements being the traditional, what we're used to. To give an example of a difference in that same situation, if you build a school for $20 million, it's going to expense that $20 million when it's built. So it'll create those spikes, whereas the business model recognizes the useful life of that asset, and it's an asset over that life, and then you also record the related debt. Anyway, if we go to page 2, I just want to read something real quick related to that net asset column. About a third of the way down the page where it says statement of net assets in italics. This is kind of a description of what that statement tries to do and what we're trying to get at here. The statement of net asset depicts all board's assets and liabilities with the difference between the 2. Reported as net assets. Over time, changes in net assets may serve as a useful indicator whether the board's financial position is improving or deteriorating. And you can see in this government-wide statement, when it was implemented in 9/30/02, it went from $94 million to $210 million. So we're headed in the right direction from a financial position standpoint. The second column is the same roll forward, if you will, but it's based on the traditional fund presentation, and that's more like you're accustomed to seeing in your monthly financial statements and your annual financial statements. You can see in 2000 we had $48 million, increased approximately 20 to 2002, where we had $67 million. You can see the related increase to, and this is if you take all funds in the entity. We went from $48 million to $150 over that same time frame. And both of those would include the county money that we talk about. A little bit more about this time frame. 2003 was the first year that we lost our hold harmless allocation. When the state changed its funding mechanism from the old minimum program to the foundation program, they had a hold harmless provision because it very negatively impacted systems like Hoover, Homewood, Vestavia, Mountain Brook, Decatur. When I was in Decatur, we also got a hold harmless allocation. the intent of that was to, in effect, try to provide schools with funding at the same level as they got in 1995 per student. We also subsequently went back and the legislature agreed to index that amount each year based on salary increases and benefit increases. There's a frame of reference in the last year that we got it in 2002. In 2002 was $6 million. So with the raises and the steep benefit increases, it would have just continued to increase. So we lost that at that point. As we tried to. I forgot to print the one on. We showed also this morning to give you an indication of that. Also, is you take the foundation allocation from the state that all schools get in the state, and you compute an average that all systems get per student. It's about $4,900 per student. Our amount is $4,200 per student. If you multiply that by 12,000 or so kids that our current year allocation is based on, that's about $7.6 million a year. So that whole harmless going away is, put us well below the state average, or in effect, less than what we got on the 1995 basis per student. I just tell you that to just show that how we have increased our financial position over time with those things having to be considered. We also had a year proration in this window too. So you can see, deficit spending would show a negative trend. This is very much a positive trend. The column on the first and the last column really show, I've tried to take out the funds that are local revenue generated, like the 24 mil fund, like the general fund, like local funds that may be in another fund that are in effect unrestricted. So I've tried to lump those together and show you just how those have progressed over the same period, and you can see the related increase there, and that excludes the county.
Which column then?
The first one.
Okay.
So those are unrestricted, is that?
Right. I know it gets confusing with the with the transfers on the face of the statements, the transfers back and forth. Also, if you could go to page 2, or third page, I'm sorry. This is out of our financial statements that just really describes the general fund structure. But if you go to draw there on this number is page 12.